Hello, this is Kenny at the General Paintball Museum, and today I'm here to talk to you about the 98s and the different generations and how they've kind of developed over the years. The Model 98, which was the first edition, had the identifiable grills on the body, as the 98 Custom is smooth. Internally though, if you open them up, this one is an earlier Model 98. It has the metal power tube, as the traditional ones have the plastic one now. Let's see, other changes inside. It doesn't have any milling for any updates or upgrades later. The only one it does have is the one for the vertical adapter to be placed in. So it had to mill this channel out so that you could have that done. Earlier ones also had a different ASA. They have little notches in it, and the air comes out of the side of it versus the end of it. And that was for a clip for a spring, like a sling on there. Also noticing this one has a pull spring for the trigger return versus the 98 Custom has a return spring up here. Later generation also has, this is a Model 98, so if you wanted to upgrade it with the added accessories such as an RT, you had to have it milled out for the RT to fit down into the body, and then mill a small channel behind the trigger for it to come out for the RT to be installed. Also, you had to drill for porting on the other side because the air port on the other side of the valve didn't exist on the Model 98. Also, later Model 98s did no longer have the notches for the clip. And then I believe there are later ones that have more milling done that were made pretty much for Walmart and other big box stores so that you could add updates later. Then moving to the 98 Custom, one of the earlier generations, pardon this one, it's pretty dirty. They have now milled for the RT trigger. They've also put a spot where you punch out for the air to come into the RT, and there is an air port on the opposite side of the receiver for the feeding accessories such as the cyclone feed, RTs, and other things. Still, again, they have the channel for the vertical air adapter, and also this panel here is removable for electronic trigger upgrades that came later on. Moving on to the later generations, this one is has the anti-chop system on it. This is still a 98 Custom. This is also found in the Pro Series. You have the spring up here, same as the last one, and the spring for the sear is in a recessed notch. And if you notice, the body milling is different because it can accept many different updates, such as the electronic grip would just drop in here and had a spot for the solenoid, batteries, and programming hole. And then it also has still the notch for the RT system. And then the linkage arm is now bent and it's missing a second pin, but there's a pin here, and is also missing the anti-chop springs there to let the bolt close and not on a ball, so it would in theory not chop the ball. I don't feel like it worked super efficiently, but it did exist. There was also another series that was very similar to this one. It was the Custom Pro series. It did come with a drop forward and a little bit more ginger on them. Following this, you have now what is still in production, the Platinum series, which is significantly different. Versus threading into the valve, this is a compression fitting for the airline on both ends. Still has the milling for upgrades and updates. The body on the second receiver is in two pieces, so you could remove the front half, clean the front bolt, and also the pesky clip spring is now pretty much locked in place unless you need to remove it. Also adding another body bolt for the two halves to meet. And that is pretty much the Platinum series. It also has the Pickentine rail on the top with the 3 bolts that hold that on. And then people also ask me, what's the difference between the electronics, which is a sear tripper, and the ebolt system. So the e-grips, which are a battery powered that goes in the grip only, basically removes the mechanism of firing it with mechanical and adds a solenoid to pop the sear. calling it a sear tripper electronics. Now if you go to an ebolt, this is an ebolt, so you have a low pressure regulator down here on the ASA, which feeds the solenoid and also feeding the valve. This one's also equipped with the low pressure kit, and on the other side of this noid you have the ram, versus the other ones that are spring forward. This one is spring back, so the ram is always in the back position, and when you fire it, air pushes up through the noid and pushes the ram, hitting the valve same way as it would here with the hammer, just a different function, and then the gun would fire. This one also is equipped with a center feed, so traditionally you'd have a feed port here on the side that is blocked off, and then they drill the top of the gun, and then a different feed neck would snap onto it to let it vertical feed, which increases feeding capacity. This one also has an older style double trigger, where the trigger guard does go into the lower part of the body versus looping down over the newer 98s. On the earlier model 98, the trigger guard was built into the body, so if you wanted to add a double trigger, you had to cut it and then add a double trigger, and there would be no guard unless you bolted one aftermarket one on. So this is the many generations of the Model 98, and I'm sure there are a few variants in between these, as there are millions of them in production. But yes, thank you for watching, and like us on Facebook, and till next time, bye.